Alright, so we're back with the We Got Issues Hoodlum podcast. And listen, you gotta like, subscribe, and
hit the like button.
And follow us. Don't make it fun. Like, follow, and subscribe. Hit that button on the right there that says you like the podcast, you know. Make us happy, you know what I'm saying? Catch you right back.
Run that.
So we're live here at HDLM Radio. This is the We Got Issues podcast. And today I'm hanging out with my dear friend, Chuck LaBella. All right, Chuck.
Well, really impressed already. I'm Chuck LaBella. I'm the EVP of podcasting at Sturrock Media. And I met Evan through a friend, a crazy friend, who we won't give any airtime to right now.
There you go.
But we love him.
Yeah.
And Evan is an interesting guy. And at Sturrock, we're always looking for captains of industry, entrepreneurs, and people who are just interesting to tell their story. And that's why, selfishly, when I met you, I kind of targeted you and goes, yeah, that's the guy. Fuck so-and-so. We can say.
I kind of like that.
But it's true. It's true. I'm speaking honestly here. So let's start with.
Well, Hoodlum's my brand, and I've been doing a bunch of shows during COVID. Actually, I started doing some FaceTime Live stuff on Facebook, and it kind of just was, it was building, and it was originally called the Roddy King, kind of play off on the Tiger King thing, and I play music and talk about politics, talk about music business and entertainment, and it just started spinning. And now that we have the brand getting ready to launch Hoodlum, it's the Hoodlum show, and We Got Issues, and my two cohorts, JC, who's actually in Vegas today, and Queen Vic, who's along for the ride today, are just hanging out.
Very cool. Well, I want to get to your whole business and your philosophies and what you're doing now and who you're meeting and who you're producing. But I want to hear how it all fucking started for you. And I know a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and connect us.
Okay, perfect.
So you're from Long Island originally.
Yeah, actually born in the Bronx, Boogie Down Bronx, and we moved to Dix Hills, Long Island, and with my three brothers. There's actually four boys in the Forster boy clan. Mom and dad, Franny and Irwin. My dad was in the commercial production business, so he's in the advertising business. He was one of the original Mad Men, so it's kind of cool. And
what do you remember about Dix Hills?
Oh, it was incredible.
What do you remember?
It was incredible. I remember that that our house was first. My dad designed and we built the house, and we had this great backyard. We had a full football field in our backyard. My dad was an athlete, so he always wanted his boys to play sports. So we had this huge grass area that was probably around, I would say 40 yards of just solid grass, both sides. It was a square, and all the kids in the neighborhood used to play there. My mom used to make us all lunches, and it was a lot of fun. We'd sleigh ride down the street, which was a long street called Beaumont Drive, and we'd sleigh ride down the street. And I remember vividly being 5, 6, 7 years old. We'd run with our sleds, and we'd run and we'd jump on it, and then kids would be running from the side of us and jump on our backs, and we would go down the street as fast as we could. It felt like we were going 100 miles an hour, and we would end up going right into a snow bluff, and it was just so much fun growing up.
Or a pole or a car.
I probably get hit by a couple poles.
Now I'm going to throw a word out to you, and you're going to tell me whether you know it or not.
Okay.
What is skitching?
Skitching? Don't know the word skitching.
You never held onto a bumper of a car in the snow and skied the car?
No, never did. Okay. I was probably too young because we left there when I was 11.
Okay. That was a real Long Island thing.
Was it?
People would wait on the corner during a big snowstorm and see the car whip around, and everybody would jump on the bumper, and some old lady would scream, "Get off my bumper." But Dix Hills, by the way, I'm from Massapequa.
Oh, nice. And my cousins are from
They call it matzo pizza.
Matzo
for
pizza.
a reason.
Yeah.
It's very lower. Yeah, I want to say lower middle class. It's not Dix Hills.
There you go.
It's a very blue collar place. So I kind of had the different experience. Only 8 miles away, but a totally different world. That's
right.
what Long Island is.
Yeah, it was amazing growing up there. I loved it. And coming from the Bronx, it was, my mom and dad are both New Yorkers. They were both from Brooklyn. And living in the Bronx was really cool. And I remember living there vividly. And we left there when I was 5. But it was a nice transition to go to Long Island. And, we had a big home. It was different than living in the apartment building. But the apartment building life was pretty cool too.
Yeah. So let's talk about your dad a little bit.
Yeah.
You told me some stories and God, I love that whole Mad Men era.
Yeah.
And it's kind of looks like your office is over here. A little modern furniture, glass walls. It's kind of.
My dad was the coolest, man.
Yeah. So tell me about your father worked in advertising in the Mad Men era.
Yeah, so and it's really cool because we'll get into that in a second. But my dad ran a company called MPO, and MPO was a preeminent advertising production company back in the 60s and 70s. My dad worked on campaigns like Pop Pop Fizz Fizz, which was a legendary campaign.
The Alka-Seltzer
commercial, and he also did the Chic Shape stuff with Larry Zonka. And, if you're a sports fan, back in the day,
Miami Dolphins, right?
Dolphins, he had Zonka. And my dad would work with him. But my dad started a lot of great guys. Michael Cimino, who did The Deer Hunter, he was directing for my dad back in the day. Owen Royceman, who was Academy Award winner. These guys were just, legends in the business. But my dad was a producer. And we grew up in the commercial industry. My mom was the Palmolive lady. She'd put her hands in the thing with Madge, and they would say, "Relax, it's
By the way, that
Palmolive."
was your mother?
Yeah, my
By the way, that must be the most legendary thing you've ever said.
and
And Vicky's going, "That's Palmolive."
he has no idea.
Yeah. So let me illustrate for the younger people. So when we were kids, there was literally a soap dish commercial where the soap would never harm your beautiful skin. You can actually dip your hands in it. And you'd never see the lady's face. You'd only see these beautiful hands going into. So
That's my mama.
Evan's mom.
That's my mama.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because, when we talked, because my mom's still with us. My dad passed 10 years ago, which is very, very hard on me and my brothers because he was such a powerful figure in our life. But my mom got the shtick like nobody's business. And shtick is a Jewish term. Means kind of got that little attitude. But Franny was a model. My mom was a model, and my dad was a producer. And my mom tells a story of her walking in to go to my dad's office, and these guys are like, "Hey, honey, jump on the desk." And my mom's like, "Excuse me?" They go, "Jump on the desk and pull your skirt up." And she says, "Are you out of your fucking mind?" And she's like, "I'm his wife." And all of the guys turned white. But that was the advertising business back then. The girl would walk in and go, "You'd look great, honey, if you lost 15 pounds. My dad said that to my mom when he first met her. He goes, "I'll put you in commercials."
Yeah,
and
by the way, that
that
was a whole bunch of HR issues right there.
A whole bunch of HR issues.
I don't think they had HR departments back then.
I don't think they wanted them.
Yeah. So your father grows up in this legendary world. Were you aware of it?
Yeah, I was aware of it.
When you see the Alka-Seltzer commercial, you go, "That Dad thought of that." I mean, is there an awareness there?
It was, the awareness was when he's grabbing all of his boys. I'm the oldest, and he says, "Come on, you're gonna come with Daddy to work." And I go on the set, and I got these bright lights like we have here in my eyes, and he says, "Okay, you're gonna be the handy wipes baby." And he told me, years later, I go, "What? I go, what, Daddy?" He goes, "Yeah, you're the first handy wipes baby, 1,001 uses, and they wipe your mouth and they wipe your butt." So the lights were too bright for me. So my brother Brian got it, then my brother Darren, Johnny. So we were all handy wipes kids working for my dad.
You didn't get paid for this, did you?
Yeah, we got residuals. Yeah.
Really? Wow. Your father set you up then.
Teed us up as national spots.
Wow.
My brother Darren made like 30 grand in
Your father was
1969.
very industrious to get his kids paid. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, later in life, we had to pay for it. You know, it was like,
Yeah.
these are the kind of
He
things
set you up.
set us up.
Yeah, that's great.
We learned a lot.
That's great. So your dad becomes this legendary madman type figure,
Right.
and then he gets a call from Hollywood.
Gets a call from Hollywood in the 70s, and they ask him to come to California. And I remember he says to us, he goes, guys, you can eat off the streets there. I go, what? And he's like, it's amazing. California's amazing. It's a whole different life for us. You're going to see. And my dad got the call to go run the commercial department for Universal Studios back then.
What year are we talking?
This is 76.
Oh, that's prime blockbuster, summer blockbuster.
Jaws
had just come out.
My
Star
dad's doing the
Wars is
commercial
coming
for
out.
my dad's doing the commercials for that. My dad's on set with Alfred Hitchcock. I got great pictures of my dad with Alfred Hitchcock. He was doing the commercial for like the
You
Psycho
should put up
House.
some of these pictures on your website when you start talking about stuff. We should get some of those pictures up.
Oh yeah, I definitely will check it. It's really great because, you know, as my mom is, 85 years old, she's reminiscing about my dad a lot. And she says, there was no one like him, Ev. You got to understand. She's like, I meet people all day long, but just, he smelled nice. He always
By the
worked
way,
alone.
I think you should interview your mom too.
I
think you should.
dude.
You have such an interesting life that I think mom needs to come on.
First of all, she's the biggest gangster you've ever met.
Yeah.
Okay? She's the biggest gangster you've ever met. My dad used to tell me stories of my mom. My mom was a pink lady. So she was in the girl gangs back in the 50s. Freddie Bop, Bougie.
Yeah, she might cut you though. Yeah.
she would cut you, but she would give you the riot act. I mean, definitely. She's
Tough broad, as we say.
tough, broad, class act, funny, gorgeous still. At 85 years old, my mom, when she walks down the street, people think she's in her 60s, and she's just incredible lady.
That's great. So you move out here, and now you live in the Hollywood movie life.
Living the
You go
Hollywood.
to Universal, you're going to premieres.
I'm on the back lot.
Yeah,
I'm on the back lot as 11 years old. As 11 years old, I'm on the back lot, and it's just incredible. I'm seeing how they're making TV shows and movies, and actors are coming back. Lee Majors is there, and this one's there. Farrah
$6
Fawcett.
million man was everything.
Unbelievable, some of the stuff that was going on back then. But I'm driving around in the golf carts. All my friends are like, "How come we don't got to go to the tour?" Like, what are you talking about, buddy? I'm going to take you to the
You're
tour.
getting the best tour
I'm going
right
to get
now,
the best
yeah.
tour ever.
Yeah.
And I would take them on the and drive through the lot and go see my dad. And it was a lot of fun. I had a blast, man.
Yeah.
What's funny was we used to have a recording studio down the block, and we'll get into some of that stuff later. But I was sitting with this guy, and he was at the bar, and he was a major commercial director. And people really didn't talk to him that much. And he was sitting there, and Billy D. Williams and Clarence William was there talking with him. And they said, yeah, he's in the commercial business. I go, oh, my dad was in the commercial business. And they go, really? And I go, yeah, but in the 60s and 70s. And he's like, oh, what company? And I told him MPO. And the guy put down his fork, and he put down his glass, and he looked over at me, and he says, what's your father's name? And I said, Irwin Forrester. He says, son, your father's company was the biggest and the best commercial company in the world. And I said, excuse me? He's like, your dad was one of the guys, like Mad Men. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. You know my dad? And he goes, your dad started some of the biggest directors in history out of the commercial business. Your father was a legend. And I said, oh my God. And I went home and told my mom, and I was all emotional about it. And she's like, well, your dad has 13 Clios. And I said, Clios? Those are like Academy Awards for commercials. She goes, yeah, your dad has them. They're somewhere in the garage.
That's great.
And it was just
That's
pretty
great.
cool. Pretty
That's
cool to hear
great.
that from somebody that,
That's great.
just a
All
random
right,
dude.
this is something for me and you. How many gold records are in your garage? Just thrown. I mean, I hate to sound arrogant. After a while, you're just like, do I need to keep this one up? I mean, that's like the selfish arrogance of what we do.
It was crazy. I probably have
I
around,
rotate them in and out sometimes.
I probably have 30 or so that I've worked on, maybe even more. But in my office, I only keep my number ones that I was involved in from inception.
I think also they have to mean something to you, because
These all
after a
mean
while
something.
they just give you something
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that later. But I
Yeah,
have,
all of the.
by the way, I have a Charlotte Church platinum album.
Yeah.
Never met Charlotte Church. But everybody always like, how did you get that? I'm like, I don't know. It was just sent to me.
My friends,
You know?
my friends always ask. They said, why do you keep these? And I said, well, this was my first artist I signed.
They have to have stories, I think, right?
They all have to have a story for me.
Right.
This
Otherwise, they end up in the garage.
for the garage.
Right.
But not to discredit them.
No.
They were all famous artists.
Yeah,
you know.
it sounds like we're arrogant assholes right now, but we're really not.
No, we're not. Sting and Janet
So
Jackson aren't still.
let's talk about because God, I don't even want to get into mobsters yet because that could take up a whole podcast. So tell me about your journey in show business. So you're a kid in California. What do you want to do?
I'm a kid in
When
California.
you graduate high school, what's your path?
So my path was that I wanted to be an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So and I wanted to be an attorney for several reasons. But the one reason was I like to defend people that can't defend themselves. And it's part of my what my makeup is that I always look out for the underdog. I always take on the tough jobs, rebuilding somebody's career or digging them out of a big hole that they're in, or being that go-to guy. And I started in the entertainment industry at a very young age. At 16, I was a club promoter, and I was working for this guy. And
What years are we talking?
We're talking about 1981.
Okay, so you're a club promoter in Hollywood.
In Hollywood,
Set the scene. What that looks like.
Okay, so
And you're 16, but going on 21 at this point.
Yeah, 16 years old. Get a car. My buddy says he needs help getting people to the clubs. I'm like, all right, brother, I'm gonna go hit the beaches. So I would make up invitations, thousands of them, like 5,000 invitations, and I get my little brothers. I call them the Goonies. We throw the Goonies in the back of the truck, and we go to the beach. And Johnny, the baby, who was 9 years old, he's passing out invitations to girls in their bikinis. My other brothers are passing out invitations. Then we go hit, the malls. Then we go hit the beauty shops, hair salons, barber
I
shops.
love that you know what to target.
Yeah.
You're not wasting your time at a place where you're not going to attract the right crowd.
It's weird, and I use these business practices later, but I was a big fan of Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Getting.
Yeah, but I got to interrupt. You have a heart. So that's all bullshit for me.
Oh, there you go.
No, you think you're a killer, but you're actually a very nice guy.
It wasn't the killing part. It was the strategy part, not the killing part. It was the strategy. It was a strategy about
surround. Give you some credit. You're a nice guy.
I'm a nice guy until you cross me, but which is pretty known actually in our business.
Okay, I'd like to hear about that one. Dave.
We're going to talk about that hopefully, but I would surround the object. So if it was getting kids to a club, I would hit them at all the peripherals. So I'd go to where they lived and I would put invitations under their door, not on the car where they'd wipe it and throw it on the ground. I slide it under their door at their apartment complex. Then I'd go to the barber shop. Then I'd go to the hair salon. So I'm hitting them in multiple touches, and I'm really surrounding them and capturing them without them knowing that they were captured. And that's what I mean by the art of strategic. So I'd use those practices, and I use them today. And I'm one of the creators of Street Teams. But getting back to the nightclubs.
So you started the nightclubs.
Started in the nightclubs, and I have clubs in Westlake Village where I was growing up. We would rent out event halls, put thousands of people in these places for everything from Valentine's party, Christmas party, New Year's party, Halloween party, and we started like that. And then it just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And people started asking us to come in to their restaurants when they were dying, like at 9 o'clock at night in Westlake, everybody's going to sleep. Well, that's when I took over. So I'd get into the nightclub at 9 o'clock, and all of a sudden, I'm bringing hundreds of people to their place. And one thing leads to another. Before I knew it, I had 6 clubs going 7 days a week, all different locations. And it was...
basically the dance clubs, right?
Basically dance clubs. I had a reggae club. Called Catch 21, which was in Encino, which is in the Valley. I had the Malibu Beach Bar and Grill, which is now Nobu. I had Trancas, which is now a big market called Vintage Markets in Malibu. We had the Screaming Clam, which is at Duke's. We had all of these clubs, all different locations. In Westlake, we had Sergio's. We had Montego and Encino. Pinafini's, which was right across the street at the Beverly Center. And then I ended up at the Palladium in Hollywood. And I was at my club one night, and these guys came in and said, "Hey man, could you come bring your crowd to the Palladium? We got 3,000 people there." And I said, "Sure." But
and I can ask you, it's in the past, how does this work? Is it all cash?
All cash, bro. All cash back then. And I would admit,
no contracts or anything. Yeah, how many people you need? This is how much it's going to cost.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, $10, $7, whatever.
I get something at the gate.
I'm making the door. I'm making the door.
Right.
The owners of the restaurants would make the bar.
The bar is where the big money is.
Bar was where the big money is, but I didn't care. I couldn't drink yet, right? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Then I go off to college. You know, I'm at college at USC, and I'm still doing the Palladium. Still making $2,000 a Saturday night. I'm like, you know, going in and interning for jobs that I'm trying to get when I get out of college. But I was making cash money.
All right, now Vicky's gonna laugh. This is what we call you. We call you #baller. So you're a baller at this point.
My friends were ballers. They were selling drugs and doing all this other shit.
No, but that's not. You're making shit happen.
I was balling. Yeah, we were balling. The brothers, because me and my younger brothers were coming through as well, doing nightclubs with me, and we always had cash. And it was, and we were balling. Bought my first car with my own money.
You just save any of it?
Huh? Yeah, I paid for USC.
So you planned ahead.
Well, I did. I didn't store the money away.
I was making, by the way, while you were doing this, I was working in radio, maybe making $30,000 a year, thinking it was all the money in the world.
Yeah.
It was nothing. I got nothing to show for it. I got some photos.
It was great. I was living in Malibu with my buddy Jamie. Jamie was working at Zuma Sushi, and Jamie was making so much money. He would throw all of his money on the top of his dresser, and I go, "Jamie, we got to pay rent." And he'd go, "Just grab the cash." And I'd be grabbing cash. I had no idea what else Jamie was doing. That's when I started with balls.
You don't want to know.
Give it a little sushi, and under the sushi there's something.
He's moving tuna in out of the sushi place and selling it for double the price.
Exactly. Yeah. But it was a lot of fun back then. The nightclubs were what got me into the entertainment industry. So
you go from nightclubs, you develop a reputation, and then do you enter the record industry from that point, or how does it work?
Not exactly. I wanted to go, and you know, when I was at SC, I kind of was, you know, trying to be more of a mover and shaker, and I knew that law school was going to be difficult for me because I was a good student, but wasn't a great student. So when I got out of school, I ended up going to look for jobs in the entertainment industry, and I put up my resume to all these different talent agencies, and I got a job offer from CAA from Ray Kurtzman, who was the major player at the time. Kurtzman gave me a job. Then I got a job offer from Peter Grosslight, who was running Triad Artist, and became William Morris, and or ICM, one of them. But I got all these job offers, and I walked into this place called Bauer Benedek, which is now UTA, and I got to meet, you know, Jeremy Zimmer, who's a big shot.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because
Jeremy Zimmer is currently one of the biggest agents still in Hollywood, right?
Yeah, he if not. Let's
give him a shout out that we want guests on Evan's podcast.
That's right, Jay-Z. Yeah. You know, he was the first Jay-Z to me, but Zimmer was the guy that interviewed me, and that's a really cool. It's a really cool. What happened was really cool. So I walk into this office, this meeting for my interview, and I'm sitting there, and I'm wearing the same outfit that Zimmer was wearing, which was kind of weird. And he has these two other agents come in. One was Risa Gertner, who's a big shot too, and a guy named John Lesher, and they're both in the meeting, and they're asking me all these questions. So you don't want to be in this business? It's a terrible business. You don't want to be in this business. Same shit you hear about all day long. And I'm like,
it's almost like a test.
Test, right?
Yeah.
So I look over and I'm like, are you guys hazing me? Are you trying to haze me? I just got out of SC.
Yeah, they want to see if you got what it takes.
Got the nuts, right?
Yeah.
And I was associate chairman of the Sammy House, so I'm like, all right, these guys are fucking with me right now. So they said, what's your favorite movie? And I said, my favorite movie, Godfather. Oh, sure.
Everybody says that.
Everybody says that.
Right.
Wasn't Gone with the Wind. and I look over at Lesher, who has taken his shoes off and he has his little black socks on, and Risa has these nylons or pantyhose on, and I'm looking at these two guys, and I'm like, I pat Lesher on the leg, and I go, "No, John, that's not my type of movie. To tell you the truth." And she goes, "Oh, it's not?" And I go, "No." And she goes, "So that's your favorite movie of all time?" I go, "My favorite movie of all time? You really want to know? Rocky." "Oh, Rocky's your favorite movie?"
Yeah. There's, you think probably at that time you're feeling what I feel that's still in Hollywood. If they're not cool movies, because everybody likes them.
So I said Rocky, and she goes, "That's your favorite movie? Why is your favorite movie?" I said, "You know, who won the Academy Award that year for when Rocky came out?" She goes, "No." I go, "Rocky." And I go, "Hey, wait a second." I go, "Lesher, don't you represent John Avildsen?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Risa, do you know who directed?"
Oh, dude, you start calling people.
Do you know who directed Rocky? She goes, "No." And I go, "John Avildsen."
Client.
John Avildsen.
Yeah.
So boom. So Zimmer goes, "All right, you two idiots, get out of here. You got the job." And that's why I got the job at UTLA.
By the way, that's a great story.
You got issues with the podcast, and listen. You gotta like, subscribe, and
Hit the like button.
and follow us. Don't make it fun. Like, follow, and subscribe. Hit that button on the right that says you like the podcast. Make us happy. You know what I'm saying? Catch you right back.